2020. I don't know if y'all know this, but it's Galentine's Day. Do you know this? I got a card today, and I'm like, what is it again? So anyway, it's Happy Galentine's to all the ladies in the room. It's particularly fitting, I think, today, as we recognize. So it's the day, young people I think know this. So it's the day before Valentine's Day, and it's when you're supposed to get together with your girlfriends and eat breakfast for dinner. That's what I was told. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, that's my understanding. Don't hold me to it. All right. I'm going to make quick introductions. So Jackie Pianiotto, the clerk to the board, is to my far right. Our newest commissioner, Victoria Parks, is to my immediate right. I'm Denise Treehouse. Next to me on the left is the vice president, Commissioner Sumro Dumas. Next to her is Jeff Aludo, county administrator. And Charlie Annis is here as our legal counsel today. We start our meetings with silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand if you can. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I'm going to move that we approve of the minutes of the previous session.
Second.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. We've got a special presentation today in recognition of Black History Month, and so I'm going to turn that over to Vice President Sumro Dumas.
Thank you, Madam President. Really excited about the opportunity to acknowledge some of the movers and shakers in Hamilton County, the queens of Hamilton County. One of them might be a princess, though. I don't see her yet. But and I thank the commission for allowing me to do this. This is the second year that we've been able to recognize Black History Month. So I'm going to get started, and each commissioner will also have some names to give out. And I'm going to start with Chelsea Clark. I don't know if she's here yet. Oh, there she is. Come on up. Okay. So if you want to stand right here, you can. Yeah. This is a resolution designating February as Black History and African American History Month in Hamilton County. Whereas the Hamilton County Commissioners recognize February as Black History Month, also known as African American History Month, and that this month be a time to better understand the contributions made by African Americans to the United States of America. And whereas in 1926, Carter G. Woodson started Black History Week, and whereas in 1976, Carter G. Woodson, the founder, established Black History Month to coincide with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. And whereas this month is also a time for all Hamilton County residents to celebrate the heritage of our African Americans which reside within the county and in the state of Ohio. And whereas we honor Chelsea Clark for her commitment to the political process in the city of Forest Park and her innovative work with young people in the STEM programs. And whereas Chelsea Clark remains a strong soldier for equality and justice for all. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Hamilton County Board of Commissioners that February the 1st through February the 29th is recognized as Black History and African American History Month. Congratulations. So we're going to give you a proclamation. Congratulations. Yes. And we're going to take a picture. Okay. So and if you could remain standing right here. She didn't tell me she got married, though. That's why I was confused. Okay. 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 I'm sorry. Well, where is he? Okay. Okay. Very good. So our next. Oh, I can go on and finish. So what we're going to do, we're not going to read all those whereases. We're going to, the good part, the really good part in the middle, we're going to read that. So you heard the beginning. So I'm going to go next. And Jan Michelle Lemon Kearney, could you come forth? Oh, she's out there in the.
Maybe we should.
Huh?
There she is.
Okay, could you just come up front? And so I'd like to say about Jan Michelle Kearney is, whereas we honor Jan Michelle Lemon Kearney for providing professional literary truth to those that are bombarded by untruths in so many forms of media, we also honor you for your community involvement in other areas that allow you to provide your vast expertise. And whereas Jan Michelle Lemon Kearney remains a strong soldier for equality and justice for all, now therefore be it further proclaimed that Hamilton County Board of Commissioners honors Jan Michelle Lemon Kearney for her contributions to the betterment of the citizens of Hamilton County. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Would I just say thank you?
Go up there and get your.
Do I get to say thank you?
Would you like to say something?
Oh, I just want, I'm sorry, I missed the whole protocol thing because I was out coughing, but I just want to say thank you so much to Hamilton County Commissioner Parks and to Hamilton County President Driehaus, and especially to Hamilton County Commissioner Stephanie Summerall Dumas, whom I have known since kindergarten. So we're both proud graduates of Rockdale Elementary, now Rockdale Academy, and this is just such an honor, and I just thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Yes. We're going to take a picture. Okay.
You want to look
This
there
way.
first as a county.
She missed her. I'd like to digress if it's okay with the commissioners. Chelsea, would you like to just say a couple words? Okay. Okay.
I'll bring this down just a tad. And also, thank you so much, Ms. Parks, Ms. Driehaus, and Ms. Dumas. We come from the same hometown, of course, Forest Park. You don't think that the work that you do is sometimes realized or recognized, and it's only when sometimes those children come back to you and they say, well, now I want to be an aerospace engineer because we did the bicycle engineering. So I want to thank a host of other people. I can't recall everyone at this time, but most certainly Rockdale Academy has been wonderful in their support of our STEM and how we were able to launch and now being the top tier for STEM programs in Greater Cincinnati. So we're appreciative. Thank you.
Okay, our next honoree, Iris Rowley, if you could come forward. I didn't see Iris. Okay. Well, I'm going to read her information, and hopefully she'll come in. Whereas we honor Iris Rowley, who continually gives of herself, and for her steadfast advocacy for all the people in Hamilton County, we honor you for bringing light to dark places that were so in need of light. Whereas Iris Rowley remains a strong soldier for equality and justice for all, now therefore be it further proclaimed that Hamilton County Board of Commissioners honors Iris Rowley for her contributions to the betterment of the citizens of Hamilton County. So let's give her. Madam President, if you'd like to.
It's my turn. I've got Tracy Artis. Tracy. Whereas we honor Tracy Artis for her outstanding community involvement and musical genius that generates positive energy in all of Hamilton County, and whereas Tracy Artis remains a strong soldier for equality and justice for all, now therefore be it proclaimed that Hamilton County Board of Commissioners honors Tracy Artis for her contributions to the betterment of the citizens of Hamilton County. Congratulations.
Thank you all so much for this honor today. I love the city of Cincinnati and love being a part of it and representing people that love music. I also direct the Black Family Reunion, and Dr. Dorothy Height came here 33 years ago. This is where it all started at. The recognition today, and thank you for realizing that there are people in the city who sometimes work behind the scenes, but we're working to make the city better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. You want to give her?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. All right. The next one is for Carol Smith. Very good. We honor Carol Smith for her years of work with nonprofit organizations and advocacy in the community for financial empowerment for people of Hamilton County. Whereas Carol Smith remains a strong soldier for equality and justice for all, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Hamilton County Board of County Commissioners honors Carol Smith for her contributions to the betterment of the citizens of Hamilton County. Congratulations.
Thank you ever so much. I want to thank Ms. Parks, Ms. Driehaus, and Ms. Dumas for the honor that you bestowed on me. I appreciate it, and I thank you for the support that you have given me. I know Victoria and Stephanie and some of the activities that I'm doing, so I feel blessed. Thank you.
Great.
Congratulations.
You want to give her her? That'll be the last time I have to tell you. Okay.
You don't have to tell me.
Okay.
Is Patricia Milton here? Didn't see Patricia. All right, so I'm just going to read this one. She's not here. But we're going to honor Patricia anyway. Whereas we honor Patricia Milton for her passionate advocacy in Hamilton County, especially the Avondale community, to try to make life better for everyone. And whereas Patricia Milton remains a strong soldier for equality and justice for all, now therefore be it proclaimed that Hamilton County Board of County Commissioners honors Patricia Milton for her contributions to the betterment of the citizens of Hamilton County.
So now it's my turn. Will Marjorie Mosley please come to the podium? This is such an honor. Marjorie Mosley, whereas we honor you for your unyielding advocacy in Hamilton County to be a voice for those that are unable to speak for themselves. And whereas Marjorie remains a strong soldier for equality and justice for all. Now, therefore, be it further proclaimed that Hamilton County Board of Commissioners honors Marjorie Mosley for her contributions to the betterment of the citizens of Hamilton County.
Thank you. I really am humbly honored. When Bishop told me about this, I was just like in awe and shock, because I do this work because it's needed to be done. I don't look for any accolades. But I'm going to go by first names because that's how I know y'all. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Denise. And thank you, Stephanie. I am privileged and I will continue to do the work to betterment for all of the citizens in Hamilton County. I appreciate this honor.
We know it, girl. Will Annie Ruth please come to the podium? Whereas we honor Annie Ruth for her work with the children of Hamilton County and her outstanding literary and artistic genius. And whereas Annie Ruth remains a strong soldier for equality and justice for all. Now, therefore, be it further proclaimed that Hamilton County Board of Commissioners honors Annie Ruth for her contributions to the betterment of the citizens of Hamilton County.
All right. I am so thankful for this opportunity. I want to thank you, Commissioner Victoria Parks, President Denise Driehaus, and Vice President Stephanie Summerall Dumas. Thank you so much for this honor. I love giving back to our children. It brings me joy, and matter of fact, I say it is the untapped fountain of youth that I've tapped into. By pouring out to them, they pour out to me, and we're making this county a whole big, better place. Matter of fact, when I leave here, I'm going to share with the children, because if we neglect sharing with the children, we're neglecting our now and our future. So I just encourage everybody, let's give back. All right.
Yes.
Will Susan Upton Farley kindly come to the podium? Welcome, Ms. Susan Upton Farley. Whereas we honor you, who committed yourself to making a difference in the governmental system, especially in the village of Woodlawn for many years, and whereas Mayor Susan A. Upton Farley remains a strong soldier for equality and justice for all. Now, therefore, be it further proclaimed that Hamilton County Board of Commissioners honors Mayor A. Upton Farley for her contributions to the betterment of the citizens of Hamilton County.
Thank you. I'm going to keep it brief. I've been honored over and over again because I've had the opportunity to serve in every capacity throughout Woodlawn and the entire Princeton district. I was in our very first graduating class of Princeton. I've been everything in Woodlawn except the dog catcher, and that's because we didn't have it. But God's been extremely good to me. I'm the mother of 6 children, and here I'm sharing with my daughter, Tracy Farley Ortiz, is being honored today. All I can tell anybody is God is good, and if you share and give of yourself, you will continuously be blessed. And I've lived so long until I've seen the results of giving back. I thank you, Stephanie, everybody. I can't call names because I can't even see all of you. But I thank you, and it is an honor and a privilege. Thanks.
Sorry.
All right, so if we just move you all together, we'll do one group shot, so we'll shift down. Group shot.
I'll just stand up there.
Real close together, real close.
Right now, I'm gonna be posed and smile. That's what I'm thinking.
Come on, Mayor. No.
You were great. We're coming down. Okay.
All right, so Danielle is your focus right here. That's right.
There you go. That's good.
Dan, you got it right?
This photo check.
Thank you.
All right, there it is. Right here. Good one. All right.
One more over here. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Bishop. Absolutely. Wonderful.
Hey, ladies, you're welcome to stay. We're going to be talking about sewers if you'd like to stay. Otherwise, feel free to leave. It's fine. You won't hurt our feelings. All right.
Send me your photo, too.
Okay, we are going to resume our meeting. So next on the agenda is the MSD update, but we are going to take that after MSD comes up and talks about the regular agenda items. I don't have any speakers cards, and so we're going to move into comments and motions of commissioners. Commissioner Somero-Dumas.
Okay. Madam President, I'm going to wait and have my report next week.
Okay. Commissioner Parks?
So this is for comments.
Yes. Or by leave.
Okay.
You want to bring your by leave? Yep.
I have a couple violets.
Okay.
The first is appointing.
Your mic's not on.
The first by leave I have is appointing a chief of staff to my office. So on Tuesday, Ms. Sonia Taylor will start in my office, and I couldn't be happier.
Very good. Would you like to make a motion to approve of the resolution?
So moved.
Second? Give us 1 second. Okay. All right, we're ready for the roll call?
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes?
Commissioner Somero-Dumas?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
don't have it.
Second?
Yeah, the second by leave I have is I have a resolution establishing the Office of Family Voice. And what this office will do will aid parents and caretakers of children in foster care. So many times, once a child is taken into foster care, the parents, they are lost and they just don't know where to go, and they don't have anybody to advocate for them. And so that's what this office will do. The commissioners in 2019 and in 20, in their policy agenda, vowed to deploy new resources strategically to protect children so that vulnerable children have permanent, loving environments free from issues of abuse, dependency, and neglect. And so this is our desire to help parents better navigate the complex world of children's services by creating this external office.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. And I do want to say that this comes as a result of the Children's Services Levy that was passed, and there was a commitment on the behalf of the board to move in this direction, along with the kinship care things that we've initiated and some of the other proactive family-centric policies that this board put forward. So thank you for bringing this in front of us.
And I'm also proud to further Commissioner Todd Platoon's policy agenda. This is attached to that.
Yeah, I believe it was a unanimous, yeah. So, all right, very good. Would you like to make the motion to approve of the resolution and read the title of the resolution?
Just wanted to make a
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just an additional comment is that this effort, which is a great one, is in conjunction with the county administrator and Job and Family Services. So they'll be working also with us to make that happen.
Very good.
So I move this resolution to establish the Office of Family Voice.
Second. Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you. Any other items?
that will be it.
Very good. All right, I've got a couple of things. As many of you know, we didn't have our meeting on Tuesday. I had to get up to Columbus because we have ongoing conversations about the opioid settlement. We've been up, a few times talking to the governor's office, to the AG's office, trying to agree to an approach where we can collectively move forward in the state of Ohio, the idea being that we get to the top of the pack as other states try to organize in the same way. We want to be considered very, top of the list because I think there's some fear that at some point the resources are going to just run out. And so we've been trying we have been participating and trying to come to an understanding over the last few months. I feel like we're very close. And so the attorneys are to get something in front of us come Tuesday for us to consider. And so I must give you a little bit of a framework. So as you know, the county and the city both sued the distributors to get some compensation for our expenses related to the addiction epidemic in our community. And so there's been some conversation about how that would all play out and how those monies would be distributed. And so at a very broad level, what was in front of us on Tuesday was a disbursement of funds in partnership with the AG and the governor, where the state of Ohio gets 15% of an amount that we don't know, by the way. I mean, we have no idea what that amount would be. 15% goes to the state, 30% goes to the local governments, and then there's a 55% pot that goes to what is being termed as a foundation. And so there would be a foundation that would reside in Columbus, and then there would be 19 district foundations where the money would come down to the local communities, and then as a local community we would disperse those funds primarily to treatment, prevention, some law enforcement, Narcan, those kinds of things that we've been working on for years in Hamilton County. And so that's the framework under which we are operating. And so I just wanted to bring the commissioners up to speed. I hope that we can come to an agreement. It will, though, take every single county and every single municipality and the governor and the AG to agree. And so it's it's been a minute, but we're making progress. And I want to thank John Cranley was up there too on Tuesday, offering a voice from Southwest Ohio. So I'm optimistic about where we're headed. So I will let you know as soon as we hear something, likely next week. I also attended on behalf of the commission an annual event down in North Bend. It's kind of a North Bend Cleves event way on the west side, think close to Indiana. And it was the birthday of William Henry Harrison. They have an annual event. There's a parade to the tomb. There's a laying of a wreath, and then there's lunch. So I went to the lunch, and it was very nice. The community always comes together. Unfortunately, school had been called off that day, and so the kids didn't participate, and they always do. And so it was a little smaller than usual, but it was a very nice event, and I went down on behalf of the commission. And then lastly, I represented the commission at the Gals in Government event at City Hall over the weekend on Saturday. In fact, I sat with Diana Christie and Kathy Bailey from Waterworks, and we talked, and a woman from the mayor's office, and we talked about women in government at all levels of government. So it was fun. I hope people learned a little something about the county, but it was fun, a fun event to participate in. So that's all I have by way of my comments. And Jeff, I know you also have a by-leave item.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have one by-leave. Again, as we bid farewell to Director Moira Weir, who's moving on to take the leadership role at the Greater Cincinnati chapter of the United Way. Have a resolution appointing Timothy McCartney as interim director for JFS as we begin to the process of a broader search for a permanent director. There's a resolution in your packet regarding this interim appointment. Tim, for those of you that are probably already aware, but for some of those for those of you who are not, Tim is the current Chief Operating Officer at Job and Family Services. He has roughly 30 years in the Ohio Job and Family Services Network. He was employed for 10 years. For the past 10 years as Chief Operating Officer, he is the former Director of the Claremont County Job and Family Services Department. He's overseen all aspects of the organization from child support to public assistance. He is very familiar with the financial systems associated with the department. He's just a solid and steady presence at JFS. I had the opportunity to reach out to multiple stakeholders who are a part of JFS's network, both in the community, past directors at the state level, and everyone with just really positive things to say about Tim's expertise and his ability to navigate an organization, especially in an interim framework like this. So I wanted to bring this forward for the board today. Tim's term as interim director would be effective March 19th as Moira begins her departure, and so I offer that for the board's consideration today. Thank you, Madam President.
Thanks, Jeff. Are there any comments or questions related to the resolution?
No comments.
None.
Okay. So I know we've talked a lot about Moira's service here at the county. I just, again, want to say, Moira, good luck. As you move into your next part of your journey, we have been very grateful to have you doing the work here at Hamilton County, and all the progressive things that we talk about as a commission are many times your initiative that got us there. And so thank you for all that you've done for the families and the folks that really need a hand up in this community, and everything that you have done to make sure that's a positive experience, particularly when it comes to kids that are in really challenging circumstances. So thanks for everything. And it's with a bittersweet emotion that I offer this. I think we all have met Tim. Know Tim. I knew Tim when I was a state rep, and he's been with JFS for a long time. So I feel like we're comfortable with this in the interim as we look then for a search for the new director. So I will move that we approve of the resolution appointing Tim McCarthy as interim director of the Department of Job and Family Services.
Second.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Anything else, Jeff?
No, Commissioners, other than just to say that, as I indicated before, over the next couple of weeks, I'll get back to the board on the recommendation for a process, a stakeholder-led process as it relates to the permanent director position. I want to talk with each board office about that just to make sure that the administration is moving in alignment with board policy on this.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we're going to move into our regular agenda. Ted Hubbard is here, county engineer. He's got items 1 through 3. So Ted, if you would walk us through those items, we'd be grateful.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Item 1 pertains to a resolution that would allow us to proceed with replacing deficient sidewalks in Delhi Township, Green Township, and Springfield Township. We've had our required hearings. The hearings have been closed, and so this is the next step. This is the resolution that authorizes us to proceed. Item 2 pertains to a resolution setting a viewing and hearing date for the vacation of Simonson Road, and this is in the Dry Fork Road area in Harrison Township. The viewing is set for February 26th, and the hearing date is set for March 5th at 1:15 p.m. Item 3 pertains to a resolution that would authorize the commencement of the bidding process for 2 landslides that are located on Wesselman Road, and we're hopeful that we're going to get some FEMA reimbursement on that, but you know how it is. We have to first correct it, and then hopefully there'll be some reimbursement that comes to help defray the costs. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments?
Just a comment, I was at the OKI meeting this morning, and well-deserved recognition was given to Ted because he will be retiring at the end of the month.
Well, thank you very much,
so,
Commissioner. I
thought that was
appreciate it.
very nice.
Appreciate
And once again, enjoyed working with you.
I enjoyed working with you too, very much,
Thank
all
you.
3 of you, and I mean that.
Commissioner Parks, any questions or comments?
No comments.
Very good. All right, I've not got any questions or comments, so I'm going to move that we approve our regular agenda items 1 through 3.
Second.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks.
Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Ted.
Thank you.
All right. All right, our next items are related to MSD, items 4, 5, 6, and 7. Jack Rennekamp is coming forward to describe these items.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. MSD presents items 4 through 7 for your consideration. Item 4 is a 2020 MSD operating budget amendment. What this request does is basically reallocate the board-approved and appropriated 2020 operating budget of $217.7 million to the various MSD divisions for operational purposes, as well as the SBU program. It does not change or modify the approved operating budget, and it does not increase any sewer rates as established by the board. Item number 5 is for CSO5 water connection. This project's located within the city of Cincinnati in the South Fairmount neighborhood. The request is concerning appropriation of 2 permanent easements from 1 property owner that is needed to construct this project. The board is requested to approve plans, specs, estimate of cost, approve the public necessity and public purpose, and determine to proceed with construction, and then to authorize MSD and the county prosecutor to proceed with any easement appropriation that's necessary in order to construct the project. There are no funds that are requested for this appropriation. Item number 6 follows suit in terms of the Winding Way sewer replacement project as an easement appropriation, requesting 3 permanent and 8 temporary easements to be appropriated by your board. This project's located in the neighborhood of Avondale in the city of Cincinnati. It is, again, approving detailed plans, specifications, estimate of cost, approves the public purpose of the project, its necessity, and determining to proceed with construction once easement appropriation has concluded. And of course, the easement appropriation is a resolution authorizing the MSD and the county prosecutor to go forward and deal with appropriating easements at this point in time. No funds are requested for this action. The last item, item number 7, Spring Grove Avenue sewer replacement and rehabilitation, is requesting the board to approve construction and to appropriate funds for construction of this project. This project is located in the Camp Washington neighborhood of the city of Cincinnati. It is requesting approval of plans, specifications, estimates of cost, declare the public purpose or the necessity of the project, and determine to proceed with construction, and appropriating $465,000 for project construction. If you have any questions, well, first of all of these are asset management projects, items 5 through 7. If you have any questions, Be happy to entertain them. Also with me is Director Christie and Deputy Director Welsh.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack. Are there any questions or comments?
Just one question. As you spoke about no appropriation was required, is that because it's already been allocated?
Funds appropriation, two-part response to your question, Commissioner. Number one, the funds for the easement acquisition have already been appropriated.
Okay.
And then any funds that would relate to the appropriation of the property, in other words, a fair market value, have already been appropriated.
Okay.
But no funds are requested at this time
time.
until the prosecutor concludes any action with the property owners.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Parks?
That was pretty much my question.
Okay, great.
And I do have a question. So number 5, where is that? Can you?
It is actually at the end of Queen City Avenue, as it's been reconstructed at this point in time, near the bank of the Mill Creek.
Okay.
It's been, how long's that project been going on, Jack? I was a state rep when it started.
Oh, the Lick
Lick
Run
Run,
project?
yeah.
It's been going on for a while, since 2009, 2010. But this particular portion of it is located at the far end of the reconstructed portion of Queen City Avenue that was one way, now it is two ways, I believe, and it's right at the bank of the Mill Creek.
Thank you.
All right, very good. All right, I'm going to move that we approve of regular agenda items 4 through 7.
Second.
Yes.
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 Thank you. So now we are going to move back to the front of the agenda for the MSD update. This is related to Phase 2A. Diana Christie, the director, permanent director at this point of MSD, is here. I want to provide a little bit of context for this. So as the board knows, the consent decree required a Phase 2A submittal in June of 2018. The county, as the owner of the utility, submitted our Phase 2A approach. MSD at that time submitted a Phase 2A plan also, and it was in conflict with the county's Phase 2A plan. And so the regulators then, because usually you have one Phase 2A plan, and they had two, and it created a problem for the regulators, as you might imagine. And so then they offered a Phase 2A plan in response to that. And the regulators' plan is very expensive, to say the least. And so there was quite a bit of concern over that and how that played out. And so the MSD then did an analysis, basically, of what the regulators had offered, and we knew that that was happening, but that was offered then January of this year. We got copied on it, so we found out when the regulators found out. I wish we had known about that and been able to participate in that conversation. However, we were not afforded the opportunity. So Diana Christie, the director, is here to talk about what was offered to the regulators in response to all of the above. Is that accurate, Diana? The accurate description of what we're doing? Okay. All right. So Diana is going to offer a PowerPoint, and then we'll have questions and comments from the commissioners.
Yes, thank you very much, commissioners, and thanks for giving us this opportunity to talk today about this issue. I will, about halfway through or towards the end, have Ryan Welsh, our chief engineer and deputy director, join me and help explain some of the technical aspects, but we're going to try not to get too far into that. I did want to just start out with a very, very quick introduction of the consent decree, since what we're talking about today is the Phase 2 and the status of that. So, just very basically, our consent decree is an order from the court to bring our sewer system into compliance with the Clean Water Act. And I think most people here do know what the issues are with our sewer system. We're not unlike a lot of other cities and towns in our country that have older systems that were built before the Clean Water Act that have combined systems, and when we have too much stormwater enter our system, we do have designated overflows. These designated overflows can be permitted by the EPA, but the consent decree recognizes that we have certain illegal overflow points, which are sanitary sewer overflows, and we have to significantly reduce our combined sewer overflow volume to meet the Clean Water Act requirements. So with that, our consent decree, and I won't read through the slide, but you can see up there when we were entering into this, we were looking at 11 billion gallons of overflow per year in our district. The consent decree is very costly, but it was entered into at the time. It's unique in that it allows us to take a phased approach to the work we do. So the city and the county, as defendants of this plan, we put together what is called the Wet Weather Improvement Plan, or the WIP. And the WIP is a list of projects and the approaches that we're going to take to address these overflows and to bring us into compliance with the Clean Water Act. Again, it being a phased approach means that we negotiate with the regulators to do the work in phases, and that those phases are based on an affordability and in terms of what our community can handle with increased rates on the sewer rates. Everything we do is paid for by the ratepayers of the district. The other key point about our consent decree that is different than others in the country is that it has no end date. So these phases, as we're negotiating them, are looked at with the, again, with the focal point of the affordability of the program that we're conducting. So I also just want to quickly bring us to the present. So for the last 10 years and ending in 2018, we were doing our phase 1 of the consent decree. That was about 184 index projects. It's really more projects than that when they become construction jobs. But we've substantially completed the phase 1, and we've had significant achievements from that, including water quality improvements by eliminating 6 billion gallons of overflow. So the work we've been doing, it has achieved results. It is, however, very costly. What we've also done during phase 1 was that we looked at alternative approaches and we learned things along the way. So some of the alternative approaches that weren't initially in our consent decree were things like our Lick Run project that you mentioned, which is an adaptive management project where we're doing an integrated approach to remove stormwater from the system instead of the initially designed project, which was a deep tunnel that would have brought all of the flow to our treatment plant. Some of the lessons we learned in phase 1 that we're all, I believe, the city and county in agreement when we look at phase 2 are that some of the problems were our projects as initially planned, those cost estimates really didn't account for a lot of conditions that we've discovered in terms of the property, the work that has to be done underground. It can be very costly, and things that are not discovered until you get in to do the work. We learned a lot about what we can achieve just by doing the work that we need to do to improve and keep up our existing system and infrastructure. That's our asset management program. So those are things we have to do anyway, but in doing them, we achieve wet weather benefits that should be recognized as part of the WIP. And again, we really learned a lot about this integrated planning approach and how we really, in 2006, when we were developing this, didn't have the best solutions and technology that we have today. So our consent decree has a process called adaptive management to go back to those original projects, say we can achieve the same results better, faster, cheaper, more efficiently. I did want to include, Commissioner Treehouse just touched on this, but just kind of again to bring us to present. We don't need to go through all these dates. I think the keys are that the consent decree deadline, which was moved a year, was June 30th of 2018, and that was to begin the negotiations of a phase 2 by submitting a phase 2 proposed schedule. So this would be the next phase of projects. There was in disagreement between the city and the county about the approach there, and so there were 2 plans submitted. On July 11th of 2019, the regulators did submit to the city and the county their own schedule because it was their position that by having 2 plans there was technically no submittal under the consent decree. I think the key there is in their letter, they said that per the consent decree, the regulators were imposing this schedule on the defendants. And this was a 10-year schedule, and that is the regulators' proposed Phase 2. Both the county and the city, as you can see here, responded to that and had various concerns. County's letter, this is all included in the validation report, but I don't need to reiterate it. You all know what your concerns were a lot to do with the cost. A lot of our concerns, in addition to the cost, were that these projects were not the projects that we had even been negotiating with the regulators about for the last 10 years. That prioritization had changed. We had entered into the bridge schedule and a number of things that the projects they were proposing were impractical and sometimes impossible. So why did we do this validation report? I think, again, MSD recognized that, if the regulators were in a position to impose a schedule on us, that we can't be saddled with something that is too expensive, but also the projects themselves hadn't been looked at in a number of years, and we didn't have a good understanding of the costs and the schedules. The prioritization had also changed, so we really wanted to look at the feasibility of doing anything of this magnitude if they had the ability to impose something, and especially at that cost. So MSD initiated this work shortly after we responded to the regulators and had shared that response in terms of what we were concerned about and that we would be doing this validation. And then over the next several months, there were many conversations amongst the county and city lawyers and the regulators where the regulators really wanted to understand what the problems were with their proposal. They wanted us to provide that information to them, and they had requested meetings on multiple occasions. Our effort here, and I think if you read the executive summary of the report, and I should point out, so we did provide copies of our validation report. It looks very thick. The validation itself is only about the first 34 pages. That's MSD's new work. When you get to page 35, it starts with the exhibits, which are all of the past submittals. So it's the bridge plan, it is the county's submittal of the Phase 2, it's the city's submittal of the Phase 2, and then some additional reports. So all of those were prior public documents. But getting to the validation, this is not a submittal under the consent decree. MSD performed a technical review of the projects and of the feasibility of the program that the regulators were proposing. It was intended to look at the amount that the regulators had proposed for consent decree work, which was $938 million over 10 years, and to say, if that is the ceiling, we're not talking about whether that cost is affordable, because that's a separate negotiation that has to happen with very specific parameters. But if that is the ceiling, what could we do and what should we do? Because again, we don't want to be saddled with doing the wrong projects. And when we looked at the Phase 2 schedule that the regulators were trying to impose, what we had were, again, it's a costly program in that that's higher than either the city or the county had proposed for 10 years. But not even looking at whether $938 million was affordable over 10 years, the biggest concern was that it wasn't based on what we know today. What we know today was that the original projects listed in Attachment 2 of our WIP are not the best solutions for these problems today. We also learned that the costs were based on very preliminary planning estimates, and since we've done Phase 1 and especially the bridge work that's been being completed over the last 2 years, we have learned that these costs are very unreliable, even after inflation. So sometimes we're looking at orders of magnitude higher than what was included in the WIP. Their schedule also recognized $50 million in addition to the $938 per year for asset management. It did not, however, get into any of the specific projects and what impact they would have also on the wet weather program. However, their program excluded the allowances and the program contingency that we have under the WIP. And it excluded, again, the schedules and the milestones weren't verified in terms of what it actually takes to build these projects. And I think most importantly, they excluded all of the prior negotiations that the city and the county have been participating in with the regulators and have reached agreement on a number of changes to the original WIP program. So again, getting back to why we felt we needed to do this, I think both parties recognized flaws in the regulators' plan. Once being asked by the regulators to respond with information about what it was that was flawed, MSD started putting together this validation report. It was for our own information, but also for everyone involved. This validation, as Ryan is going to tell you, really shows us the problems and how significant they are. And it says if the ceiling was $938 million, rather than 155 projects, we could really only do about 80. And I'd ask Ryan to come up now and finish the slides, and we'll answer questions when we're done. There's just a couple more. I'll just take that.
I think Diana said most of it already, but I'll get into the maybe the technical details of how this was carried out. What we looked at in the validation wasn't, we didn't really create new information. We looked at everything we had, everything we knew about the projects to determine are the schedules accurate? Can they be implemented? Are the costs, is this real, what the regulators gave to us? When I first saw it back in July, I knew immediately that it wasn't, what the regulators were asking us to do was way too much. It could not be afforded for $938 million, that these schedules couldn't be met. But we needed something to be able to quantify that so that we could communicate back, we can't do this, and this is why, rather than just saying we can't do it. So we went through a lot of workshops. We got all the people in the room, several meetings, looked at all the previous studies, previous work, everything we know today to come up with this plan. And really, indeed, like Diana said, what the regulators asked us to do was to, they had, I think, over 300 155 projects is what they expected us to do for $938 million. What we've determined is that only 80 can be done for that amount. So if the eventual affordability is determined to be $500 million over 10 years or whatever it is, over 5 years, we need to be able to tell the regulators we can or we can't do this. So basically, let's see. Go to the next slide, because this is important. So the circle on the left represents everything the regulators asked us to do in this imposed plan. What we did in this validation, what's laid out in the report and the response to the regulators is that, okay, if we have, and this is a if, because we're not saying that we have $938 million to spend, but if we did, we can only do 80 of those 150, and of the 80, we place those into priority buckets. One bucket is a continuation of the bridge projects, construction for things that were designed in the bridge. Bucket A contains a lot of the projects that we've already done planning on that are ready. Really, I think most of the projects that are in the county Phase 2A plan and the city Phase 2A plan are in Bucket A. Bucket B is the next priority down, and then Bucket C is the lowest here. I think things that would be designed but not constructed within 10 years. So that's, I think that's about all I have. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. I don't have so many questions, as I just want to lay out a perspective from, I think, where we sit. I recognize, and I think you've acknowledged, there has been common ground here when it comes to the regulators' response to the two plans. I want to set a little bit of a different framework. So, reminder that the county owns, city manages, MSD. We are the ones charged with passing a budget, creating policy, raising rates, which is a huge responsibility. And when left out of part of these processes, it's really challenging from where I sit to make good determinations and fight back on behalf of the ratepayers when we don't have enough information or the information you have to do it. So I just do want to say that as we have moved through this and acknowledge that had the county, we are obligated to offer the Phase 2A to the regulators as the owner of the utility. So we did that. They got a response. But then the city offered a different Phase 2A. So it muddied the works, and then the regulator said, well, because we have two, we have none. And then they came up with their own. And they're not worried about rate increases. They don't live here. And so that the city offered a Phase 2A complicated everything from the very start. And so then we've got the regulator's plan in front of us, which is not affordable, and that's the common ground. We agree. But then the validation report comes forward, and that had to be done, and I think that's important information. The report talks about stakeholders being involved, but there are internal stakeholders to MSD. I consider the county to be a stakeholder as the owner of the utility, and we were not involved in any of this. In fact, we went through the budget end of last year, and all of this work was happening at that time, and not one word about how this was playing out, which I'll tell you was very frustrating. In addition to that and I've gone through the report, this report is characterized as, I'm quoting, this can be considered as alternative Phase 2A plan from MSD. And then you double down at the end of the report and say it again, that this is being offered as a Phase 2A alternative from the city. I mean, these numbers are not affordable. And so I would expect that the city and the county would come together and say, we need to fight what is in front of us by way of the regulator's report. We should open up the consent decree and do this, because my then secondary read of all this information is that the numbers that we've been dealing with over the past number of years to come to the Phase 2A, your numbers haven't been correct, and so our numbers haven't been correct. And I'm not casting aspersions on that. Things change, and I understand that. But if the numbers are as high as the regulators say they are, we're all out of whack with our Phase 2A work. And we, in our submission, 5-year versus a 10-year, 3% increase versus a 29% increase from MSD, I mean, we weren't in agreement to begin with. But if these numbers are $1 billion higher than we knew, we've got some conversations to be had. And I wish we had had this conversation when we were talking about the budget, both the operating and the capital budget, late last year when you all were going through this. And I know it wasn't final. I know it was offered in January, but you must have had some understanding of how these numbers were increasing per the validation report. And we are left without that knowledge. And so I just want to express the frustration. It's a process frustration that we have been left out. And I'll just remind everybody that a year ago, almost to the date, we passed 3 resolutions, unanimous resolutions of this county commission. One of them talked about fully cooperating MSD with the county so that we wouldn't be in this kind of situation where we don't have the correct information to making budget decisions and rate decisions. So, you know, it's super frustrating. I'm disappointed that this was offered to the regulators as an alternative 2A without our knowledge, and we don't find out other than being copied on it. That's not a good way to do business. So those are my comments reflective of the validation report, and I want to ask my colleagues if they have additional comments.
Thank you, Madam President. I fully agree with everything that you said, and it's, for me, this presentation was only a distraction for me. I've said over and over and over that I need stuff before the day of the meeting. Maybe it came last night, I didn't see it. And then I guess to give something like this is really a joke. I got it this morning, just now. So all of that was, to me, just a distraction for the question that I have. And it goes along with what you said. The county submitted a Phase 2 after input and public hearings. And then you guys submitted another Phase 2A. Why? Why did you think you had the authority to do that? I'm just going to be straight. Why did you think you were able to do that? And as you were saying, we're the ones that are responsible for MSD. So How did that happen? To me, there's no justification, so you're going to justify that. You're going to tell me why that happened.
Sure, and thank you for the comments. That is a very clear question, so let me start with that. I think we're leaving out a whole nother perspective of the relationship between the city and the county over the operation and management of MSD, and I don't believe that this is the forum to debate that. However, it is very clear that that is in dispute. The city's position has been briefed in court. It is currently before Federal District Court Judge Barrett. And so many of these statements being made by you, I respect your position. However, the county being owner and fully responsible is not, certainly not something we concur with, and that is not our position. MSD has, the city has operated a sewer system for about 100 years longer. It was built hundreds of years ago, and we still have ownership rights over the treatment plants, over the assets, and we feel very strongly that the decisions that are being made impact the city of Cincinnati very, very much, and that we have a role. We are co-defendants in the consent decree. It's our obligation just as much as it's the county to submit a Phase 2 plan. We went through over a year of negotiations between the city and the county with our lawyers trying to come up with a consensus plan, and MSD and the city requested information on the rate analysis, on the decisions of prioritization, and we never got any of that from the county. So the reason for the two submittals came down to a lack of information from the county for the city to be able to support the county's 5-year plan. So we can't stand behind something, therefore it's our obligation, it's our responsibility as the manager of the utility, with all of the employees who go to work every day with the responsibility to operate the system and to manage the system for its ratepayers and for its community. So I just want to be clear that it's not my goal to be here today to debate this with you, but there is an entire other position that is not being reflected in this conversation. So the validation report, again, this was a technical response that was requested by the regulators. I will say that the information contained in here, again, it's only about 30 pages of text. Much of it is tables, and this is not new information. It's summaries of how we got here. The rest of it is your Phase 2, our Phase 2, things that have been public for over a year now. And the information that is in here was presented as a response with technical information. It can be ignored by the regulators. It is not a submittal under the consent decree. It can be ignored by the county if the county has contrary information. But I think the fact that the costs are different is certainly not, that the information that we are learning is being shared routinely with the county team about the 2006-2009 planning estimates being way off through the bridge. That's information that's being reported monthly to the board. So, I leave it with that.
No, you didn't answer my question. Why did you think you had the authority to put in another plan?
Because the city is a co-defendant to the consent decree and had just as much responsibility to submit a plan as the county.
So when you say we, does that include us? When you say we can't do this, we have to do, who's we to you? Are we included?
I'm not sure what context I said that.
I don't know either. That's why I'm asking you. We can't do this. We can't do that. Are you considering the county when you say we? Or are you just speaking of the city?
So I think if you're asking when I say that we can't, we don't want to have a schedule imposed on us. That's not something that we can implement. It's not feasible. I mean MSD, which is, you're a part of the MSD, and your authority is very clear to me what your authority is. But I mean, we as in those who manage and operate the district for the ratepayers.
And so and I'm going to end this for now, Madam President, but as you say, you're not here to debate. I'm not here to debate either. I'm here to get clarity on the issue, and I still haven't gotten it. So I'll just see if Ms. Parks.
Commissioner Parks.
Hi, Diane.
Hello.
I really feel disappointed. I just feel like if you, MSD, were operating in good faith, that we would have been notified about this alternative plan. And in this plan, you state more than once that it is an alternative plan. This is offensive. And the way I feel right now, I have a suggestion. I think that you ought to call the judge and just tell him that you have no intention of operating and dealing with us in good faith so that we can stop wasting our time, his time, and our citizens' money. This is upsetting. I feel like you can say what you like, but we see what you do. I just don't have anything else to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we are left with, we do need to have, we talked about this as we talked about the budget, about a continuing conversation with MSD, so that we are not surprised by what's being offered to the regulators, so that we are in the loop regarding increased costs that are relative to ratepayers. We just have not been given the information that we need. And we can debate the Sixth Circuit decision and what that means relative to the relationship between MSD and the county. I felt it was pretty clear. But regardless of that, it seems to me that we should be fighting against what the regulators have in front of us, and we were there at one moment in time. And so it seems to me that when we take a look at the what's best for this community and what the regulators has offered, I mean, it seems very clear that what they've given us is not affordable. There is no way we can increase rates at that rate, and I think the city agrees with that. And so we should schedule an additional meeting to kind of sort through moving forward. What are we looking at? You know, what are the appropriate figures? What are the appropriate costs? And what does that mean to Phase 2A and beyond? Because there's more than just Phase 2A. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. We'll review this. We haven't had time to sort through. We've gotten the thinner version of this. So we'll sort through it. And then we'll schedule what we contemplated, which was a quarterly session with MSD, probably at a staff meeting, so we can have more of a dialogue and get to these numbers and then figure out how we want to move forward. So thank you all for being here. All right, next on the agenda are the consent agenda items 8 through 25. Are there any questions or comments related to those items?
I have no questions or comments.
No questions.
Madam President?
Yes, sir.
If I could, just very quickly, after some discussion with Commissioner Summer Dumas and her staff, I just want to, for clarity's perspective, there are two JFS items, items number 21 and 22, relating to contracts with Cornell Abraxas Group, and I just want to highlight and clarify that those are relating to the same contracts. They're both there. They're both listed at $500,000. Those are not two separate contracts for $500,000. One is the renewal of the agreement. The other is just a slight amendment to add a couple of some additional language into the agreement, but it's not an additional $500,000. So I just wanted to make that clarification.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarity. I'm going to move that we approve of consent agenda items 8 through 25.
Second.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. We've got some travel items requesting authorization to travel at the county's expense. Coroner's got one employee going to Denver, one going to Austin, and the auditor has 2 employees going to Louisville. I'll move to approve the travel items.
Second.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So the only thing left is the exec session. Is there anything else to come before the board?
I have nothing.
All right, very good. I'm going to move that we go into executive session pursuant to RC Section 121.22G3 to conduct a conference with an attorney concerning MSD.
Second.
Yes.
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 Thank you.